Now we've been talking about the different parts of the brain, and now we're going to add onto the list the pituitary gland. And here we see a picture of the pituitary gland. It's very small, however, it's very important. It is the master gland of the body's endocrine system, and it receives hormone signals from the hypothalamus. And here, highlighted in yellow, here's what you really need to know. It sends hormone signals to other glands for stress, digestion, and reproduction. So what's happening is the pituitary gland is sending signals as to how many hormones to release. So when I was thinking about how can I remember this, sending information, giving information, and the word is pituitary gland. Well, I thought, I could use the word pit and focus on a pit stop. Now, a pit stop, if you don't know, is in racing, the car will go to the side and they might, refresh the tires, and they might refill the gas tank. But more importantly, they talk to the driver and they tell him important information. In the pit stop, sends signals to the race car for winning the race. They're going to tell him you're falling behind. You got to stay close to number 88, or they're pushing you on the outside. They're going to give him information that he cannot see. So in a pit stop, a race car is receiving important information on how to complete and win the race. And the pituitary gland is sending information as to how many hormones to release, how much to release to help the body get through whatever the scenario that it's in. So that's the pituitary gland. Now, the basal ganglia says it directs intentional movement. Here we see a picture of the basal ganglia deep within the core of the brain. Now, the basal ganglia, when we talked about earlier the cerebellum, now the cerebellum is muscle memory, it's memorized muscle movement. This is a little different. This is directing intentional movement. Now, when an example of the basal ganglia I would say is, here's a little boy and he's hitting a piñata with a baseball bat of all things, and he is using the basal ganglia because he's very focused and he's trying to hit the piñata. And the fact that he does not have a blindfold, he's concentrating even more on where to swing and how to swing. So when I think of the word basal ganglia, directing intentional movement, I focused on the word gang, and it reminded me of an old movie. There's an old movie called The Warriors, and it's about this gang. And this gang is trying to get through from one side of New York to another side of New York. And they got to go through subways, and they got to fight all of these different gangs. And in one scene, they have to fight in a park against this gang that has baseball bats. And in another part, they're attacked in a subway, and they have to fight in a restroom. All these very specific scenarios. So when I think of basal ganglia, I focus on gang and directing intentional movement. If you're trying to run away or trying to defeat another gang in a fight. Basal ganglia. Now, here's the hippocampus. Creates new memories. That's what it does. And here we see the hippocampus on this picture of the brain. Now, when it comes to the hippocampus, it does, it integrates memories into a network of knowledge, and it consolidates and stores memories. But what you mostly have to remember is that it creates new memories. Now, this word, it kind of gives you a lot to work with, hippo and campus. And here, this picture, a hippo going to a college campus. He's going to create new memories. He's going to make new friends. He's going to be stressed out. He's going to have to do all-nighters. He's going to have to get ready for exams. He might have to do a research paper. He's going to have a lot of fun. It's going to be very stressful, and maybe he'll even gain some weight. But all of these new memories are going to be performed by the hippocampus. And just think of this picture of this hippo starting a brand new life at a university and creating brand new memories. Here we have the amygdala, and primarily responsible for fight or flight. It's that instantaneous response. If you're in trouble, do you run or do you fight? It doesn't even really give you time to process because it is so fast. It's something that you have to respond to right then and right then and there. You can't kind of ponder and think, well, what should I do? What are my options? No, that is not what the amygdala does. The amygdala is right then and right there. Do I need to fight or do I need to run away? Flight. So that's what you need to know, fight or flight, and it's highlighted here in yellow. Additional information, it does play a significant role in the formation of emotional memories. It attaches significance to events associated with fear, punishment, or reward. But how do I remember amygdala, fight or flight? Well, when I see this word, it almost looks like it could be a name. And when we talk about fight or flight, it reminded me of, a first-person role-playing game, like Tomb Raider. And I thought, what if there was a character like Tomb Raider, but her name was Amy G. Dalla, and you had to fight or you had to run away. So for the amygdala, I just think of this imaginary character named Amy G. Dalla in a video game. And she has to fight or run, flight. Now, cerebral cortex. It's the outer covering of two hemispheres of the brain. And when we look at this picture of the cerebral cortex, it's this outermost layer, right? Very thin. But even though this layer of the brain is very thin, it contains 20 to 23 billion neurons. It's the highest level of the brain, and it is responsible for the most complex aspects of emotion and thought. Really very important. But it is the outer covering of the two hemispheres of the brain, and you could almost see it as almost like a hat. The outermost part of the brain, it's on the top, on the outside, and it pretty much, if you were to wear a baseball cap, it would pretty much cover the same area that if you were wearing a hat. When I see cerebral cortex, I see the word Tex. And a lot of Texans do wear a cowboy hat. So for cerebral cortex, just think of the outermost layer like a hat, like a cowboy hat, if you will, and it's responsible for high order thinking. The cerebral cortex, the outside layer of the brain. Now, here we have the corpus callosum, and it is a wide, thick nerve tract enabling communication for the two hemispheres of the brain. So there's the right and the left hemisphere of the brain. And those two hemispheres of the brain communicate through this thick tract. Okay? So when it comes to the corpus callosum, some of my former students said, do they like the word call? Because when you call someone, when you talk to someone, it's communication between two different people, right? So just focus on the word call. Two people talking to each other on a telephone, communicating, delivering information. And that's what the corpus callosum does. It helps the two hemispheres of the brain communicate. So this was a very simple one, and this clue was actually given to me by former students. Now, two hemispheres of the brain. Let's focus on the left brain. Now, the left brain, the letter L, here you see the letter L, left brain. When you think of left brain, think of L, language. The left brain is responsible for language, and if you're going to be a master of language, you got to work on your grammar as well. So the left brain is language and grammar. The letter L also stands for the word logic. And logic is going to help you with math. So if you're really good at math, logic, writing, language, grammar, then maybe your focus is on the left brain. And I remember left brain primarily through the letter L. Left, language, left, logic. The letter L is a big key on how I remember what the two hemispheres of the brain, what they are responsible for. The right hemisphere of the brain. The right hemisphere is more artistic, you could say. I'm going to give you an acronym with 1, 2, 3, 4. And the acronym is going to help you remember the right brain. Face recognition. Okay, remembering someone's face. When you see somebody, sometimes I know that I know you, I just don't know how. Is it from junior high? Did we go to a soccer camp together? How do I know you? F-A, art. If you're very artistic, if you're good at the arts, that's your right brain. M, music. If you're a good musician, that's the right brain of the hemisphere. And then the letter E, emotional expression, like an actor or actors. F-A-M-E, fame. If you're really good at the arts, you could become famous. So the right brain is good for face recognition, art, music, emotional expression, all of these things. Now, I remember the right brain through this acronym, F-A-M-E, fame. That's how I remember the difference between the left brain and the right brain.